Have you ever looked at someone you love and wondered, is anything ever going to change? Maybe you prayed for them for years. Maybe you watched them make the same mistake over and over. Maybe there have been moments when you've wondered if it's time to simply give up hope. Last Sunday we looked at three powerful words from 1 Corinthians 13:7. Love always hopes. And we discovered that biblical hope is not pretending everything is okay. It isn't wishful thinking. And it certainly isn't closing our eyes to reality. Hope is believing that what we see right now doesn't have to be the final chapter. One of the earliest mistakes we make with people is assuming that who they are today is who they will always be. We look at a struggling marriage and think, it will never get better. We look at a child who has wandered and think, they're never coming back. We look at someone who keeps making bad decisions and think, they're never going to change. Sometimes we even look at ourselves and think, I guess this is just who I am. But love refuses to put a period where God may still be writing the sentence. And that's what we saw in the story of Naomi. When Naomi returned to Bethlehem in Ruth chapter 1, she believed her best days were behind her. Her husband was gone. Her sons were gone. The future she had imagined was gone. She told the women of Bethlehem, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. And from where Naomi was standing, that was exactly how life looked. Empty. But Naomi couldn't see Ruth chapter 4 from Ruth chapter 1. She couldn't see Ruth marrying Boaz. She couldn't see the child who would be born. She couldn't see that one day she would hold that little boy in her arms. And she certainly couldn't see that through that family line would eventually come King David and ultimately Jesus. Naomi saw an ending. God saw a story that wasn't finished. And maybe that's the word somebody needs today. The person you're praying for, God may not be finished. The situation that seems hopeless, God may not be finished. That part of your own life that looks like nothing, like you thought that it would, God may not be finished. Love always hopes because love knows that God can still write another chapter. But that raises another question. What happens when hope has to wait? What happens when you've prayed and prayed and prayed and nothing changes? What happens when you hope for so long that you're tired of hoping? What happens when you don't know if you have enough strength to keep going? Well, that brings us to the next three words Paul gives us. Love always perseveres. And this Sunday, I want to tell you about a young woman named Julia Moss. She was competing in one of the most grueling endurance races in the world, and after hours of pushing her body almost beyond its limits, she could see the finish line. She was almost there, and then her body gave out. She collapsed. She tried to get up. She collapsed again. Eventually, her legs simply would not carry her anymore. And what Julia Moss did next became one of the most unforgettable moments in sports history. I'll tell you the rest of that story Sunday because Julia Moss reminds us of something I think Paul wants us to understand. Perseverance doesn't always look powerful. Sometimes perseverance looks exhausted. Sometimes it looks like taking one more step. Sometimes it looks like praying one more prayer. Sometimes it looks like loving one more day. And sometimes it looks like refusing to quit when quitting would be so much easier. Maybe you're in that place right now. You still have hope. But you're tired. Then I hope you'll join us this Sunday as we continue the most excellent way and discover what Paul means when he says, love always perseveres. Until next time, keep walking in the most excellent way.